Welcome back. On today's episode, I will be sharing a couple of my thoughts on the US's pretty disappointing performance yesterday and where this team goes moving forward, and some of my other thoughts on the World Cup and who I think ultimately um, will end up getting to the final based off everything I've seen so far. So stay tuned after the break. Welcome back. So last night, the US lost to Belgium in a pretty embarrassing way. I went back and forth on this game. Ultimately, at the last minute, I picked Belgium. I just thought they're more reliable. I don't think they have a tremendous talent advantage. Some of their older players, or some of their better players, are older now. They're not in their prime anymore. This is not the golden generation of 18 or 14 when we lost in the round of 16 in 2014. That was a far better Belgian team, and this U.S. team was more talented than that U.S. team, and we took them an extra time, and we fought like hell. Tim Howard was amazing. We showed a lot of fight, and, we could put that was just a way better performance we put forth in 2014 than it was last night. And that's what's really frustrating about this, is that going into that game, I was like, "Wait a minute, we're at home." Obviously, we got the I don't think that was a red card. So I think ultimately the right decision was reached here. But I think how people went about coming to that decision was not exactly ideal. But I mean, at the end of the day, we had Balogun back, who I think is our best player at the moment, him or Tillman probably. And we had no excuse. I think we have a pretty talented roster. Belgium's not an elite team. They're not among Europe's best teams. They're not Argentina. I don't even think they're Morocco, who Canada lost to. So there's really no reason for us to perform that badly last night. And going to the game, I just knew we were going to. That was the thing why ultimately I picked Belgium. I was like, I have zero trust in these players. Christian Pulisic is a fraud. The dude gets hurt every game. He has scored like one goal the whole season for Milan. He might not have even scored. He never shows up when you need him to. He's easily the most he's the most talented player we probably have ever had. But in terms of how people view him on a world stage, he has to be one of the more overrated players. Um, he couldn't even play at Chelsea. He had to go to Milan. He can't score in Serie A right now, which is not the Premier League. It's not La Liga. He plays for Milan, they had a pretty disappointing season. And he'll probably end up back in MLS in like a year or two, to be honest. That wouldn't surprise me at all. And the rest of them, Tim Ream is ancient. He's had a great career for what his limited talent would, he's maximized his limited talent and had a pretty productive career. Our goalkeeping situation is shocking. For a country where we play sports with our hands, somehow the worst position on our team is the one position where you are allowed to use your hands. Matt Freese is awful. He should never, ever play for the U.S. again. Matt Turner, the backup's awful. I think basically we should just go with our younger players and go with Chris Brady and Diego Cochin and whoever else, and just hope one of our younger goalkeepers can rise to the top, even if they're not playing for their club. And Chris Richards is a good, solid Premier League center back, but he's shown he can make mistakes. Alex Freeman's young. I think he needs to move to center back full time here. He does not have a very high ceiling at right back. He's a great athlete. He's tall. I think he has a much higher ceiling at center back than right back. Dest is a good player. He was awful last night. Robinson, our left back, was awful last night. He's a pretty good Premier League player as well. I thought our midfield was okay. Tyler Adams is limited technically, but he works hard. He was pretty good. Weston McKennie, I thought, was abysmal. I think he's also one of the more overrated players we have. Malik Tillman at least showed up and wasn't scared. He tried. He's not, a lot of his tricks didn't go off last night, but at least he tried them. The free kick was pretty lucky. I'm not even going to, I think the shot would have missed if it wasn't deflected, and Courtois certainly would have saved it if it wasn't deflected. But, he scored, so credit there. I think he and Balogun are probably the brightest stars coming out of this World Cup. I think they should be the players we build around, and I think Pulisic needs to not play for this team through the end of the year. Um, he needs to get healthy. He needs to get his shit together at Milan. He does not show up for the US when it matters most. He couldn't be bothered to show up last year and play in the Gold Cup for the US. I think he needs to take some time away from the team, and we need to develop younger players, maybe Mathis Albert at Dortmund. If he can get any minutes at Dortmund next year, I think he needs to be in the squad. I think he has the highest upside of any of our young players. Hopefully he can develop and become a real star. We have a couple other younger guys who maybe by 2030 will pop. Kevin Sullivan is very young, but maybe he can become something in 2030. We have Julian Hall up top. Maybe he can be something. Uh, I don't know. We don't have a ton of great young center backs coming up, so that's a concern. We have no one to play alongside Chris Richards unless Alex Freeman develops. Noah Kai Banks doesn't look like he wants to play for the US. I think he's going to wait on Germany. So we have real holes in the back line. Midfield, I think Malik Tillman will continue to develop, so that's encouraging. But Weston McKennie, he'll be 30, or he'll be in his 30s next World Cup. Tyler Adams, same thing. Uh, Christian Pulisic will probably play 2 games a year by that point because he's always injured, and he'll be on the wrong side of 30. Balogun looks like a really solid striker. I think he might make a move to the Premier League. Hopefully he does well there. And yeah, I think he and Tillman are really the only 2 players who look like they have real upside here. Chris Richards is just a solid center back. Alex Freeman, I think, has real potential at center back if he makes the move full time to center back. And outside of that, this was really, really discouraging. They just didn't show up and try. They were scared. You look at these other teams. I mean, I just watched Egypt. I think they got robbed against Argentina with that goal that got called back. But they don't. Maybe Mo Salah is good enough at this point in his career to start for Argentina, but no one else. Like no one else in that Egyptian team would get in Argentina's 11. Very few would even get in the Argentina squad, if any. And they were able. They probably should have won that game. They were able to push them to the limit here. Look at Cabo Verde, what they were able to do to Argentina. They pushed them to the limit. All these other teams, England's way better than Belgium, and Mexico, they were outclassed. They weren't as good as England, but they at least showed some fight. The US showed no fight. They can't defend to save their lives. They were scared in the first half of the ball. They opened up no passing lanes because no one wanted the ball, so everyone ran away. So there was nowhere to pass the ball. It made it very predictable. I don't think Pochettino is going to come back as coach. Why does he want to deal with this shit again? We're soft. No one has the right mentality. The problem with soccer in America is it's pay to play. Everyone who plays soccer in America is like a middle class or upper class kid. When I played competitive soccer, we sucked. Basically, they'll take anyone who writes a check. I wasn't good. All you had to do is just write the check, and they tell you you're playing competitive soccer and being, developed to be something. And no, you're not. Everyone sucks. All these other countries, they have players who actually care. A lot of them grew up without money. A lot of them grew up in poverty, where our best athletes, they play other sports. The people who grew up in the streets and the people who did not have a lot of resources, they play basketball and they play football in this country. So that's where our best athletes go. Where the other countries, like France and Brazil and England, they play soccer. The kids without a lot of opportunities. And our team's full of a bunch of bang average suburban white kids who can barely kick a soccer ball. They call it soccer in the first place. And this is just who we're going to be. I think maybe we're able to excite some young kids into wanting to play soccer this tournament. Probably Erling Haaland and Kylian Mbappe and Messi and Ronaldo and, Jude Bellingham. They probably had more influence on inspiring young American kids to want to play the sport than this American soccer team did. But I don't really see it getting a whole lot better. I think anyone who's a casual soccer fan who tuned in last night, saw the same old United States. We play a halfway decent team, not even a very good Belgian team, by the way. And we were just awful. We were so bad. We showed zero fight. This obsession with including MLS players in the roster is beyond me. We're so bad at developing talent. Hopefully, some of these MLS teams realize that their best business strategy is to play a lot of young players, develop them, and then sell them to Europe. I think that ultimately will probably help U.S. soccer and the development if we can have more players go to Europe at a young age, because this is just a numbers game. For every one Christian Pulisic or Kevin Sullivan coming up, who Kevin Sullivan, who was hyped as this like amazing talent coming up, I believe he's only 16, but Brazil has like 75 of those kids. France has like 400 growing up in Paris right now. Not all of them are going to hit. We need like 75 Pulisic level talents because Pulisic hasn't lived up to. He doesn't have the mentality to be a great player. But we need a lot more lottery tickets in order to be a functioning, serious World Cup contending nation. And I imagine when Pochettino declines to come back, we'll probably promote like Greg Berhalter or the last coach or some other MLS idiot who is just going to play kickball or boot it up the field and will have zero ability to break down inferior opposition, will barely beat Australia 1-0 in most of these games. We'll have no shot against the better teams. And the frustrating thing is I really thought against Paraguay, that was a good defensive team. I thought what Paraguay did against France was, pretty disgraceful with all the racism and some of the dirty plays, but they held them very well. France didn't play great, but clearly they can defend. Germany, they beat Germany. They caused real problems for Argentina and Brazil in World Cup qualifying. That was a good team. We scored 4. We put 4 past them. Yeah. So we clearly showed we can play better than this. We just went into that game last night so scared. There was no fight. And it's just the same old U.S. team. And that's why I think last night was so discouraging. It wasn't that we lost. It's that deep down, I think everyone knew that was going to happen because the players have shown this is who they are. They've always shown us that they're not going to be relied upon in the big moments, that they don't care. They really do not care as much as a lot of fans. When clearly you can see for these other nations, it means everything to them. They're dying when they lose the game. They're sobbing on the field. They look exhausted. Not one American player last night looked like they gave a shit. Chris Richards was mad at himself for making the mistake at the end, but, that's an unforgivable mistake. That can't happen. None of the American players came out and apologized to the fans. None of them walked over to the fans. None of them looked exhausted. Pulisic asked to come out. I mean, this is just, I don't know. I've kind of given up hope that we're going to see this U.S. be a serious team for at least until like 2050. I think we're like 2 or 3 generations of players away from hopefully having some serious players who know what it means to represent their country and want to fight and have this quality and the technical ability to compete against some of these better European and South American nations. And now the other problem is other countries, like Africa looked phenomenal. They have a lot of talent coming up right now. A lot of those nations are going to be way better in 2030. We're falling behind. It's not even like we're not keeping up, like we're not going to be able to catch the teams who are already better than us. We're going to fall behind. Cabo Verde looked like they're going to be better in 2030 than we are. They have like no one in the country, but they probably inspired more kids to want to play the sport than we did this time. Some of these Asian countries look like they're going to get better. We need to get our shit together quickly, or else we're never going to win the World Cup. Like, we're not even going to be competitive ever if we do not quickly change our youth development and our mentality, because that's the biggest problem. Our mentality just sucks. And that leads me to my final point here. Argentina, clearly they have the mentality here where they're never going to quit. I did not think they should have won today, though. I thought the goal that was disallowed from Egypt, I think that was a disaster. That would not have been called if that was Argentina. Let's be honest. Everyone knows that. If Messi scored that goal on the other end, they would not have gone back and ruled that goal out. This is now 2 straight games. Argentina looks incredibly beatable. There's no doubt they find ways of winning. At the last World Cup, obviously, Australia pushed them to the limit. They went to penalty shootout against Netherlands on their way to winning that World Cup. So they've shown that they can win ugly and find a way to win it in the end. But they're going to have some tough games. I think Colombia probably beat Switzerland. By the time you see this, we'll know that. But either one of those teams, I think they should be able to beat, but they're tough. They're tough to break down. They're going to fight. I don't think it'll be easy matchup. And then I think England will get past Norway. And then it'll be England or Norway, quite frankly. And both of those are physical teams who are going to be tougher to break down. I don't think either one's going to be scared of Argentina. I just think even if Argentina can find some more miracles in them, they're limping across the finish line right now. And I think even if they're able to somehow get through England or Colombia, if they can get to the final, I know what they were able to do last time against France, but I don't think that can work again. I think France is not going to be so submissive and let Argentina dominate the ball. I've been much more encouraged this time around through Didier Deschamps and France and their willingness to at times be a little more aggressive defensively and come up and press a little more than they have in the past. They're still not a pressing team. They don't want to press, but I think they've shown that they're going to be more aggressive to get out and break on the counter, which is where they're at their best. And I just don't think Argentina physically can keep up with this French team. I don't think technically they have as good of players this time. I think France's back line's even better this time. I don't think it's going to work. I think them or Spain, France or Spain, will ultimately be able to beat Argentina, even if Argentina can get to the final. And then I imagine Spain will run through Belgium. I think France will be able to take care of Morocco. And then I think ultimately the semifinal between France and Spain will probably decide the tournament. Spain's had success recently against France. France, over the last couple of years, have shown their weakness where if the opposition wants the ball, France does not press high, so they don't win the ball really in a good position to go score. And because they don't press and they don't have the ball, it's then removing a lot of the threat from their elite attacking players, and the opposition will, especially Spain, what they were able to do. They were able to dominate the ball and control the game and get more shots off. The difference this time around, though, is I just think France have been far better defensively. I love their back line. I think William Saliba and Upamecano are the best center back pairing in the tournament. I think they've both been phenomenal. Jules Koundé is a phenomenal right back. He's basically a center back. He doesn't offer a lot going forward, but he's incredibly solid defensively. Luka Dean's probably a good option at left back. He's just a solid, fine player. We'll see what happens to Chouameni if he's going to be healthy, but I sort of like what he can bring defensively. Rabiot, I'm always up and down on, but he's shown he's going to at least fight and give you something in midfield. I like what they have defensively. And I just don't think it's going to work this time around. I don't think France is going to let the opposition have that much of the ball and be that poor defensively as they were the last couple of times they played Spain or Argentina in the last final. I mean, the last time they played Spain in the Nations League last year, they had Clement Lenglet at center back, who is awful. He's years past his prime. He's nowhere near as good as William Saliba or Upamecano. Rafael Varane was on his last legs last time in the World Cup for them. He's not there anymore. I think their center backs are far better this time. I just think this is a different French team. They're motivated. They're pissed off about how it ended last time against Argentina. They've lost 2 straight times against Spain. They're frustrated about that. I think Michael Olise's inclusion now with his ability to come back a bit deeper and create a bit more will help. They don't have Olivier Giroud anymore or Antoine Griezmann, who are both older. They were worse defensively, where Kylian Mbappe's reluctance to play any defense along with those two really created some problems for them to get overrun in midfield. I don't think that'll happen this time. Michael Olise is a hard worker. Bradley Barcola, Desiree Doué, both of them are willing to work hard. Ousmane Dembele, He's one of the best pressing forwards in the league, or in the world, I mean. He's a good defender. Kylian Mbappe's even shown he's willing to put in more defensive work this time around. I just think they're going to be more solid defensively, and I don't think they're going to press or anything, but I think it'll be more challenging for Spain or Argentina or even England just to hold on to the ball and pass through this French team and limit France's opportunities to attack. Because I think France this time around actually want you to have the ball. They're perfectly fine with you having the ball. They're more solid defensively this time around, and they're not going to press, but they're going to sit and they're going to wait and they're going to counter. And when they counter, they're devastating. They have four. eh, I'd argue Mbappe, I think's the best player in the world. I don't care what anyone says. Dembele won the Ballon d'Or last year, and Michael Olise could very well win this year. If Kylian Mbappe wins this World Cup, he's going to go down as the greatest World Cup international player of all time. He'll be the all-time leading goal scorer. He will have 2 World Cups, arguably should have 3 in 3 tries. He's still only 27. Uh, their attack is just too lethal, and I don't think the tricks that Spain and Argentina were able to pull the last couple of times are going to work this time. I just think this French team is a different level. And I like that they show they can win that ugly game against Paraguay. I actually think they play better without the ball. I think they raise their level when they face a tougher opposition. I honestly think they're going to give Morocco a lot of the ball, and they're just going to try to play in the counter, which I think will work very well. So I do think France, it's their tournament to lose. I think they're going to get the result. Um, and, I'm rooting for them. Hopefully they can pull it off. But I think this World Cup's been fun. It's been a great World Cup. It's disappointing the U.S. kind of flamed out the way they did. I mean, obviously they were never going to win. It would have been even uglier when they played Spain if they were somehow able to beat Belgium. But I think it's just disappointing to see how much less they care than all these other nations and just the lack of fight. Um, but yeah, I think this sport will grow off of this World Cup. It's been so much fun. These games have been amazing. The star players have been awesome. There's been so many great games, uh, which I think is awesome because the sport's amazing. Hopefully, it continues to grow. Hopefully, young kids want to play the sport so we can have superstars down the road. And yeah, it's just been an awesome summer. Uh, Tomorrow's is going to be the first day we have no game, so that'll be sad because that means it's starting to wind down the end. But I think these last couple rounds here are going to be phenomenal. We're just going to have some all-time great games with a lot of really high stakes, which is important. So I'm excited. Stay tuned. I'll be back on Thursday.